Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Linda McFadden. I'll be chairing this hearing this morning, and I'm joined on the panel by Diane Knight on Zoom and Brent McIntyre. Our secretary this morning will be Belen Rojo, and our assessor is Victoria Ho. We'll be hearing applications for a revision of the business assessment role in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act and the City of Winnipeg Charter. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We'll then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have the opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decision. You'll receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We'll be hearing items 1 through 10 on our docket today. Ms. Rojo, will you please affirm the assessor's and the applicant's testimony?
Madame Assessor, please state your full name.
Victoria Ho.
And you affirm the evidence about to present at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Mr. Applicant, please state your full name. And you affirm the evidence about to present at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Okay, we'll begin with item number 1, 655 Osborne. Ms. O, when you're ready.
All right, file number 22-4612, roll year is 2023, for address 655 Osborne Street. Business assessment ID is 43673. Business name is Safeway. Value under dispute, the total annual rental value of $359,580. As you can see, I have a workup for this property, adjusting the base ARV per square foot to $15 a square foot, which will adjust the total annual rental value to $344,580.
Thank you. How do you feel about that recommendation?
Madam Chair, I have some comments that would apply throughout the docket, so we're in agreement, but I would like to have an opportunity just to speak briefly.
That's fine with you, Ms. Ho?
Of course.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So what I wanted to make the board aware of in the context of this docket is, without exception, the 2023 realty assessments for all of the properties within which these premises are located they were appealed and actually resolved by agreement. The resolution of the realty assessment appeals, typically in many cases, they were based upon a number of different changes to the valuation course, as the board will understand, when arriving at a realty value, there's a number of valuation factors from rent all the way through to vacancy, non-recoverable expenses and such, and cap rate. This morning, the Ms. Ho is presenting the revised rental rates from the department's perspective based on the resolutions reached in connection with the realty appeals. I had conduct of each one of these matters as well. I can advise the board of that. And in many cases, actually, I shouldn't say in many. In some cases, the revised rental rates that we arrived at in connection with the realty appeal are precisely what the department has arrived at. And that's the case with this premise, but there are other cases where actually our rental rate, when we arrived at the final realty value that we agreed to, the rental rate was different. In some cases, we're a little lower than what Ms. Ho is presenting. In some cases, we're actually higher. So what the board is going to see as we move through the docket is some cases where we're identical, some cases where we're a little lower, and some cases where the department's a little lower. My only request in that context, my only request of the board, because Ms. Hose and Altus are both coming by this honestly as far as our perspective on the revised rental rates, I would simply request that the board make the adjustments consistently, either based upon Ms. Ho's recommendations or our own. That would be my only comment for the premises throughout the docket. In this case, this is one of the cases where our revised rental rate is precisely the same. So with all that being said, there'll be some differences coming up, but for this one, we're asking the board to make the exact reduction as suggested by Ms. Ho to 344,580. Thank you.
Could I ask a clarification?
Absolutely.
Are you asking us to always go with either the assessment taxation rate or yours?
Yes, exactly what
switch between
exactly
the
what I'm doing. Yeah, and in a couple of cases, it will result in an ARV that's higher than I'm requesting. And I mean, I just want, for the purposes of working through this, I would just be looking for consistency.
Consistency.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you have any questions, panel? Ms.
I'm good, thank you.
Brent, do you have any questions?
The one question is on the recommendation, it says to adjust the base rent to $15 per square foot for a total annual rental value of $344,582.
I understand. I made a mistake when I was typing really fast. It was supposed to be reversed of
Okay.
359 580 to 344 580. Nothing can get past your eagle eyes. I was hoping you completely missed that, but couldn't get away.
You know me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions, Ms. Ho?
No, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to number 2, 2155 Pembina.
Alrighty, so file number 22-4463, rule year is 2023 for the address 2155 Pembina Highway. Business assessment ID is 43647. This is the Safeway gas bar. We have the value under dispute, the total annual rental value of $87,840. As you can see here, I have some rent comparables of more recent leases, varying of gas station bars are ranging for their pad site rent ranging from $18,000 all the way to $94,286. I have no real further comments aside from the first 4 are the most recent leases. Aside from that, thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any questions?
No questions.
No questions. Brent, do you have any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
And Diane?
No, thank you.
And I have no questions. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Chair. If we might turn to my submission on page 2 then. So this is one of those cases where There was a difference in how we calculated the final realty value. Our calculation, as you can see, Madam Chair, the requested ARV for this gas bar is 65,160. And I'm going to go through this just very briefly, understanding the context that we're discussing it. On page 5 then, our valuation concerning the realty assessment was based on a reduction in the gas bar rent to $64,170. Adding in the occupancy cost, it comes in then at 65,160. In each case, I have submitted the board revision order and our submission. There were obviously changes to a number of factors that were included in our original submission concerning the realty, but where we ended up on the gas bar, based on our own valuation, was 64,170 for the rent. We believe it's consistent with the market indicators near the reference date. And we would again simply ask the board to make the determination based on the respective valuations of the parties in this context. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you have any questions, Ms. Hall?
No questions.
Mr. McLean? Brent, do you have any questions?
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Diane, do you have any questions?
I do not, thanks.
And I have no question. Okay, so moving on to number 3, 550 Keniston. Ms. Hall?
So file number 22-4269, roll years 2023, address 550 Keniston Boulevard. Business assessment ID is 21382. Business name is Real Canadian Superstore. The total annual rental value under dispute is $1,468,020. As you can see here, I have an adjustment flowing through for adjusting the base rent of premise ID 15427 to $12.25 per square foot, revising the total annual rental value to $1,407,480. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
No questions, and this is a case where there's a slight difference in rounding, but our value ends up exactly the same. So effectively, we're in agreement in this case with this valuation. Or recommendation, I should say.
Any questions from the panel members?
What was the original value you had?
For
The total?
the total,
Mm-hmm.
it's at the top. I just closed out my.
The top says 1,407,080, and that's what you're recommending.
Actually, I believe, Madam Chair, the
No.
original revised or the original annual rental value is $1,468,020.
Yeah.
And $20.
Yes.
Thank you.
Correct.
Thank you, Carrie.
Oh, I see up at the top there. Yeah, I got it now. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so that's accepted. Moving to number 4, which is 2850 Pembina Highway.
All right. So file number 22-4613. Your roll year is 2023. Address is 2850 Pembina Highway. Business assessment ID is 51545. The business name is Sobeys Extra. Total annual rental value under dispute is $1,378,440. We have a recommendation. As you can see, there is an adjustment done to the base ARV per square foot down to $19.25, which adjusts the total annual rental value to $1,275,780. Thank you.
Madam Chair, we're within $260, so I am accepting this recommendation.
Okay. Any questions from the panel?
No, thank you.
I have no questions. Thank you.
And I have no questions. We're moving to 1305 Pembina Highway. I've got Highway Pembina written down here.
That's okay. So we have file number 22-4419, roll years 2023, and the address is 1305 Pembina Highway. Business assessment ID is 1021. This is TD Canada Trust. Value under dispute is the total annual rental value of $244,920. There is a recommendation to adjust the annual rental value by adjusting the base ARV per square foot to $29, which adjusts the annual rental value to $219,000.
Sorry, I'm just trying to follow along here. We're moving
A
too
little
fast for
fast.
my brain. No
Okay.
problem.
So the total annual rental value that's under dispute is $244,920.
Thank you.
We're adjusting, there's a recommendation to adjust the base IRV per square foot to $29, which changes the total annual rental value to $219,000.
Thank you very much, Carrie.
Madam Chair, we're within $60. I accept the assessor's recommendation.
Thank you. Okay, moving right along then to 77 Vermilion Road.
Okay. So file number 22-4401. Real year is 2023. Address is 77 Vermilion Road. The business assessment ID is 50252. Business name is Red River Co-op. The value under dispute is the total annual rental value of $743,280. As you can see here, we have two premises. One is one overall premise of 46,816 square feet, using with a base ARV per square foot of $12.94. The next another premise at 2,226 square feet at $6.69 $6.69 base per square feet, which brings up, which with the calculation with the heat, electricity, water, and air conditioning for your total occupancy costs gives a final overall total of $743,280. We do have a subject lease information on this property that started in July 2018 for $10.30. I do have other rent comparables roughly in a similar area, aiming in that's a larger retail warehouse space, grocery chain-ish, focusing in the east and south side of the city, looking at Sage Creek, Keniston, Pembina, Regent, Brandon, Dakota, and again, Regent. And that's all for my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Brent, do you have any questions?
I have just one. So the premise ID 31966, is that a mezzanine?
Yes.
Okay, that was my only question.
Diane, do you have any questions?
I do not, thank you.
I have no questions. Please go ahead.
If we could turn briefly, Madam Chair, to page 2. And I would fully recognize we're looking at very slight differences here, but our requested ARV is 738,000. Again, we had arrived at it slightly differently than the department. On page 5 is our the rents that we applied to the subject space for both the main floor area and the mezzanine space, and then coming in with the occupancy costs, we arrived just at a slightly lower ARV at 738,000. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any questions, Ms. Holt?
No questions.
Questions, Brent?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Diane?
No, sir, no, ma'am.
Okay, and I have no questions. Moving on to 736 St. Anne's Road.
All right, so I'll start. File number 22-4277. Rule year is 2023. Address is 736 St. Anne's Road. Business assessment ID is 35740. Business name is Extra Foods. The value under dispute is a total annual rental value of $917,700. As you can see here, I do have a recommendation to adjust the base rent of premise ID 29393 to $16 per square feet to update the total annual rental value to $860,520.
Thank you. Do you have any questions?
I have no questions.
Any questions, Brent?
I have no questions, thank you.
Any questions, Diane?
No, thank you.
And I have no questions. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Chair. If we might turn to page 2 of our submission. So this is one of the cases where we do come in slightly lower. Our requested ARV for this premise, it's comprised of the 3 distinct areas that Ms. Ho had mentioned. There's the main floor area, mezzanine, and then the gas bar. And we come in based on the realty valuation that we had performed at $842,220, including occupancy costs. If we turn to page 5, there's a breakdown of our rental rates that we applied to the 3 different premises, and that comes in with a base rent of $733,378, and then adding in the occupancy costs, we ultimately arrive at a revised suggested ARV of $842,220. And again, the Board of Division order and our submission on realty is attached for the board's reference. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ho, do you have any questions for Mr. Reimer?
No questions.
Brent, do you have any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Diane?
No questions, thank you.
And I have no questions. 215 St. Anne's Road.
Okay. File number 22-4276. Rule year is 2023. Address is 215 St. Anne's Road. Business assessment ID is 5935. Business name is Superstore. The value under dispute, the total annual rental value is $2,212,920. There is a recommendation to adjust the base rent of premise ID 7736 to $12 per square feet, revising the total annual rental value up to $2,164,380. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Reimer, do you have any questions?
Any questions?
Brent, do you have any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Diane, do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
All right, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if we turn to page 2, this is one of those instances where our ARV is actually, the request is actually higher than the department's. We're suggesting an ARV of $2,195,220. And if we turn to page 5 then, that provides the breakdown as between the Superstore and the gas bar, and you can see that the rental rates that we applied totaled $1,826,069, and then adding in the occupancy costs, we come in at $2,195,220. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ho, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Brent, any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Diane, any questions?
Just as a point for all of these, so when you're saying your number's a little bit different, in this case a little higher, in last case a little bit lower, you're saying you're doing that because on the realty assessment that the recommendation was based on the income that you had sent in. Is that what you're saying?
Almost, Ms. Knight. So the department and Altus ultimately, for all the properties, we ultimately agreed on the final value. But we got to that final value based on slightly different methodologies in some cases. And so in this case, we actually, my valuation for that final realty value that was agreed to was based upon a slightly higher rental rate, but then a change to some of the other parameters, most specifically usually cap rate. So that's why there are minor differences in some cases. So I am trying my very hardest to be consistent with our approach on realty, which is what results in the higher ARV in our submission this morning.
Okay, thank you.
And again, just to be clear, you're asking us just to be consistent one way or the other.
Please, yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to 161 Goulet.
All
Go
right.
ahead, so,
File number 22-4266. Roll year is 2023. Address is 161 Goulet Street. Business assessment ID is 51700. Business name is Cody's No Frills. Value under dispute. The total annual rental value is $246,360. As you can see here, we have the base ARV per square foot at $14.64 for a premise area of 14,375 square feet. We have a subject lease for this property started in February 2009 using a reported rent of $14 a square foot. We have some market leases of similar retail warehouses roughly in a similar area. Vermilion Road, Erin, and Dakota and Concordia, all ranging from $10 to $25 a square foot. And with leases starting as early as 2009 and as late as 2019. That is all for today. Thank you.
thank you. Do you have any questions? Any questions, Brent?
I have no questions, thank you.
Any questions, Diane?
No, thanks.
And I have no questions. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So if I might turn to page 2. Again, the difference is not material, but there is a difference. We're suggesting a revised ARV of 237,160. That in turn, if we move to page 5, is based upon the rental rate of $14 a square foot, which is how the rental rate that we applied in arriving at the final agreed upon value. And the request this morning is consistent with that. Thank you.
So 237,180, correct?
Yes, sir.
Any questions, Ms. Hall?
No questions.
Any questions, Brent
I have no questions, thank you.
and Diane?
No, thanks.
And I have no questions.
Thanks.
That brings us to the last item on our docket, which is 285 Maroon. Did I write that down right? Oh, Marion. I can't read my own writing. Excuse me. Please go ahead, Ms. Hull.
Alrighty. So file number is 22-4607. Roll year is 2023. Address is 285 Marion Street. Business assessment ID is 43659. Business name is Safeway. The value under dispute is the total annual rental value of $646,560. We're looking at two premises. The main floor area for premise ID 3700 is 36,938 square feet, using a base ARV per square foot of $14.01. And we have premise ID 287778. Sorry, which is a premise area of 2,236 square feet. I believe this is a mezzanine space, or nope, not a mezzanine space. My mistake. And this area is $14.24 base ARV per square foot. And I have some rent comparables of subjects leases roughly in a similar area. Vermilion Road, Marin, Dakota, and Concordia, all ranging as early as 2009 as late as 2019. Similar square footage of reported rents ranging from $10.30 all the way to $25 per square feet. Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Reimer?
You know, actually, my only question, Ms. Ho, actually, I believe that second premise ID is a mezzanine. Is that's not your understanding?
I don't have the system on available, and based off of the way the base ARV is generating, it doesn't look like a mezzanine, but I think it should be a mezzanine. I would have to double check.
I believe it is, but thank you. That's my only question, Madam Chair.
Any questions, Brent?
Just one. So why would the mezzanine be at a higher rate than the main area?
If this is not recorded as a mezzanine, and if it's recorded as a main area, it would generate based off of the model will generate based off of economies of scale a higher rate because it's a smaller premise area. But I am not too sure if this is recorded correctly or not. Yeah. I'm slightly surprised right now.
Okay, thank you very much. That was my only question.
Thank you.
Any questions from you, Diane?
Yes, so then are you saying that the price should be reduced for that mezzanine space? If you think it's a mezzanine, wouldn't it be a lesser value?
It would probably, yes, but I'm not too sure if this is supposed to be mezzanine or if this is supposed to be another area that's used for retail space. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
I have no further questions. Please go ahead, Mr. Reimer.
Thank
You may be able to answer this question.
My understanding certainly, and we've handled this property for a few years now, is that is the mezzanine space, and I think that actually is the crux of the issue. If we go to page 2, the requested ARV that we're suggesting is 631,320. If we turn briefly to page 5, that's based on the rate of $14 for the main floor space and $728. And again, this is how we arrived at the realty value for total rent of $533,410, and then adding in the occupancy costs, we come in at $631,320. If I could ask the board members in this particular case to turn to page 28 of the submission. And I appreciate Ms. Ho's forthright answers on this. Again, my understanding is it is mezzanine space. If you look on page 28, this is the department's initial valuation prior to the reduction. At the bottom of page 28, you've got the main floor area of 36,938. And if you look at the top, the total leasable area is 39,174. And I do believe that difference relates to the mezzanine space.
Yeah.
And request the reduction accordingly. Thank you.
And that request is 631,320.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions, Ms. Ho?
No questions.
Brent, do you have any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Diane, do you have any questions?
I actually have a question back to Ms. Ho then.
Mhm.
So if you now know that this is a mezzanine space, would you be making an adjustment?
Yeah, it would be fair to adjust it accordingly. Probably using closer to $7 a square foot.
Okay. And do you have that calculation?
Not at the moment. I'm sorry.
Great, thank you.
There are no pictures in either brief that would give us a.
I don't have any of the mezzanine space.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions. I believe that we have concluded all the items scheduled, and that will bring our hearing to a close. Thank you very much, everyone. Very efficient.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Thank you. Happy Friday.
Thanks,
You
Ms. Ho.
too. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ms. Ho.